Hi everyone and welcome to today's Transgender Day of Remembrance event. This event is brought to you by the lovely folks at Grace Baptist Church, uh, Silicon Valley Pride, Human Rights Campaign, and a bunch of community organizers. First off, I want to acknowledge and thank y'all for showing up to today's event. There's plenty of Trans Day of Remembrance events happening throughout the Bay Area, which definitely warms my heart just to see community come out. So whichever way you choose to celebrate is totally valid. My name is Sarah. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a proud queer transgender woman, and for me, Trans Day of Remembrance really is an acknowledgement of the trans lives lost throughout the year. This year has been the deadliest year for trans folks. 47 trans folks has lost their lives due to anti-trans bias and brutality, and this is something that we want to acknowledge. Trans Day of Remembrance started back in 1999 by activist Gwendolyn Ann Smith, and Gwendolyn thought it'd be right to pay honor and respect to a trans woman that lost their life back in 1999, Rita Hester, and not only acknowledge her life but also the lives lost. So Trans Day of Remembrance is a way to acknowledge that. And from the looks of things, with so much stuff that's going on in the world, we see the tracking of trans lives lost increase year to year. And it's unfortunate that from November 20th of last year to today, 2 trans women has lost their lives here locally in the South Bay. We want to acknowledge it and pay respect to those lives. One of them, Kimberly Fial, who was a victim at the Grace Baptist stabbings, and this is where we want to make sure that we honor this sacred space. And another woman, Natalia Smat, murdered from her partner, a victim of intimate partner violence. That happened in April. So for us to be able to honor their names and honor their legacy, to ensure that their resilience goes acknowledged, to ensure that we celebrate the lives lost, because trans people being able to live authentically, to be able to live their truth, to be able to navigate the world unapologetically, knowing that they could face anti-trans bias, and in a lot of cases face racism, face misogyny. Majority of the folks you see here are trans women, black, brown, indigenous trans women that have lost their lives. And we want to make sure that we acknowledge their lives today. I want to bring up Reverend George Oliver, who has allowed us to share this space, say a few words and acknowledge what this day means, and just talk a little bit about this space. Reverend George Oliver, we partnered at the Trans Love, Trans Liberation rally back at Billy DeFrank Center in June, and he said some few words, and it was just, the story was so compelling to me as we continue to not only celebrate trans lives, but also honor the trans lives that we have lost. So everyone, Reverend George Oliver.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. First and foremost, you are not sharing, it's not our sharing, it is your sharing. We are just so happy at Grace Baptist Church to be a part of this, not because it's cause for a great celebration, but we must remember, in fact, one of the tenets of the Baptist faith within Christian understanding is that we are so committed to the idea of memory that we go through the act of what most people call communion. We just say the Lord's Supper, but we do it because we don't want to believe in power of bread or or wine to be something else. For us, there is power in memory to save lives. There is power in memory to save lives. One of the sacred texts of our Bible in the Christian understanding is the last book called Revelations by John. And in that book is a verse that I think that I want to share just not to convince anyone about being religious, but about affirming what you do. That scripture says, we will overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the power of our testimonies. That the only way that we overcome is by first telling the truth, even when that truth is impermissible, even when that truth is unwanted, even when that truth puts you in the line of danger. We tell the truth, because without the truth being spoken, nothing will change. And I am just so honored to have our church be open to you, as it is always open to you, so that we can tell this collective story together, that it's trans and cisgender alike, that it is black and it is white and brown and yellow and red, that it is the colors of all the rainbow that we are defending when we open these doors. I told Sarah earlier that my own ministry, the only reason that I am a pastor right now is because I had a trans roommate, a person who went through the change, and she wasn't welcome in my church. And when I realized the harm that that place had created, I knew that I couldn't be at that place any longer, and I left that church. And I went into Christian ministry so that there would not have to be the choice of no place to go. In San Jose, Grace has stood as a place where people could go for decades, and it will stand for decades more just for that purpose. We are honored to have you here. We are so sad that this is necessary. But just like Shakespeare said, there is no virtue like necessity. And for us, we will tell our stories because it's necessary.
Thank you so much, Reverend George Oliver. At every Transgender Day of Remembrance event, we want to honor the names of those lives lost. One of the pieces I use in my activism is a list of the trans lives lost, which the Human Rights Campaign puts together. So I want to bring up my HRC colleagues. At every Transgender Day of Remembrance, we want to honor the lives lost by saying their names. So here with me is Human Rights Campaign Bay Area, my colleagues, who we will go ahead and say their names. And with this year especially, we also want to acknowledge the lives lost in 2020 from November 20th to December 31st, 2020. And we want to make sure that those names who often go missed, because Transgender Day of Remembrance happens every November 20th, we want to make sure that we acknowledge those names. Asia Janae Foster, Shemaisha Sims, Kimberly Fial, Jahim Poo Barbie, Courtney Ishe Key, Alexandria Winchester. And those are the lives that we lost in 2020.
Tiana Alexander, Samuel Edmund Damian Valentine, Bianca Muffin Banks, Dominique Jackson, 50 Vans, Alexis Braxton, China Perillo, Jeffrey J.J. Bright, Jasmine Kennedy, Jenna Franks, Diamond Kyrie Sanders, Rayana Pardo, Jada Peterson, Dominique Luscious, Remy Fennell, Tiara Banks, Natalia Smut,
Iris Santos, Tiffany Thomas, Carrie Washington, Jihara De Alto, Whispering Wind Bear Spirit, Sophie Vasquez, Danny Henderson, Serenity Hollis, Ollie Taylor, Thomas Hardin, Poe Black, EJ Boykin, Adeline Evans, Taya Ashton, Shia Vanderpump, Jeremy Lewis.
Miss Coco, Pooh Johnson, Desire Monet, Brianna Hamilton, Kier Lepre Cartier, Mel Groves, Royal Poetical Stars, Zoella Rose Martinez, Joe Acker, Jesse Hart, Ricky Otumuro, Marquisha Lawrence, Jenny De Leon, Angel Naira.
Thank you so much. Around us, we are surrounded by the stories of these trans lives lost. This installation is really meant to honor and respect those lives. I encourage you folks. We have flowers at the front, we have roses. One thing we say in the trans community, give them their roses before they pass. Give them their roses while they're still here. Acknowledge the commitment that trans folks bring in making this world beautiful. I encourage you to just take a look and reflect at the lives lost. I encourage you to see what you could do, self-reflect, show up for trans lives. I encourage you to seek out community. Look at the spaces where we could build, where we can acknowledge each other for the sacredness, the divinity, and the warmth that they bring to this world. Thank you so much for coming to today's event. Feel free to grab roses, leave it by the names that speak to you. And thank you so much for coming out to today's event. Our goal is really to lower the amount of trans lives lost, and we could do that by uplifting the resilience of what this community brings. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was lovely. I did remember the name. It's called House of Tulip. In New
Oh
Orleans.
yeah,
Yeah.
House of Tulips. They're an amazing group.
Yeah, they're doing wonderful.
Amazing organization.
Yeah.
And they do what they can to really help the lives.
Yeah.
And really bring support for the community. So House of Tulip is I'm not sure who runs it, but I just know that their names. It's like Project Okra Project, House of Tulip. Those are the two big organizations that really bring it, especially in that area.
Yeah. Thank you again for this. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
See you again.
Yeah, I'll see you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.